Welcome to the Belonging Podcast by Elevate Villages. I'm Melissa Kaye, your host, and today our guest operates from the belief that if greed and power can be organized, then so can love. She's the vision holder for Love Organized, and she's working to facilitate major systemic change through projects and spiritual healing to make a better world our new reality. I am so thrilled to welcome from France, Kara Stonehouse. Kara, welcome to the Belonging Podcast.
Hi, Melissa, and hello, listeners around the world. I'm so happy to be here and share hearts together.
Well, Kara, I don't know you well, and I would love to get to know you a little bit better. What do I need to know about Kara? What grew you into the person you are today?
I was the youngest in my small family, and then also when we went to the bigger family gathering. So I was always the little one, a little bit shy, a little bit scared sometimes, and they even are a little bit in the clouds off in another beautiful world, living to the beat of my own drums. Sometimes I did feel like I didn't belong or fit in with the schoolmates, but I always knew who I am and who I want to be and how I want the world to be and how I want us to be kind to each other and care about each other. So often I would be heartbroken, really, at how much that was not the experience of even in my nice town and my nice family. People were just not, there's just a gap between what could be, what felt right and true to me and what we're really living. And then as I grew up, and what's my job going to be? I want to make people happy. I want to make the world better somehow. And maybe I could be a toy designer because I love design and art and science. And then sort of learning what the industry does with plastics and garbage and extraction and just being like, how do you live in this world? Always learning and striving to be like, well, what can you do and how do you do sustainable design? And when you try and do sustainable design, it doesn't work because it's not a sustainable system. So it's like, okay, so systems design, and then spirituality started to open up as the deeper root of the issues, in our society that our worldview is separated, and then that the separation from nature sort of causes all the separation from each other and the planet. So yeah, so just sort of always on that journey of discovery my whole life and always wanting to be a positive force somehow. Yeah.
What was the bridge from where you were to having the idea of the vision of Love Organized? How did that develop?
In some ways, all through my life, I was always trying to imagine what some way or something I could be doing or organizing but the Love Organized started to come into form through my exploration mostly with eco-villages. So I went to Findhorn Eco-Village in Scotland, and Joanna Macy was there doing the work that reconnects with us. So these beautiful ceremonies where we're releasing our tears and our grief. And Rob Hopkins was there talking about transition towns. And Richard Heinberg, who was talking about the peak oil and peak everything at the time. And he played his violin for us. And so just meeting these great thinkers and organizers of our time and being so touched by them with those beautiful people in the beautiful space of Findhorn. And they run everything through spirit, and they listen and say, okay, and then do, as spirit is calling them. And that was new for me at the time. And I felt quite they have this beautiful nature sanctuary there. It's like a little hobbit house made of stone with a turf roof, and you go inside and it's all stone and it carved with the tree of life, rainbows. And so I sat there, and this little shard of light came in through the top hole and it just sort of hit my heart. And I just, I just felt like cracked open, and I just felt like the gift of that, flowing in. And then I started turning life more towards spirituality and continued on with different sustainability things. And through the World Unity Week group, we meet online regularly, who are all these thinkers in this direction who want peace and unity. And we're doing these projects and we get to know each other. And it just through all these experiences and friends and ideas and reading, it just started to become clear to me Like, what are some of the downfalls of eco villages that they're trying so hard, but they don't have enough resources and
Mhm.
people and infrastructure to be. They fall apart, even the vision. We visited quite a few eco villages around the world, and there's a very similar story of the founder or the visionary of the eco village being sort of cast out or something not working, or when the visionary dies, then the community struggles. And so I was just saying, like, what's needed? What would make it really work for our lives, for our modern lives today with all the power and tools that we have now? And so that's where the 5 steps just started to congeal through some of these World Unity Week events. I would feel enlivened and stay up and sort of be up all night and be like, yes, and then start writing, through the coherence of the field that we're
Yeah.
holding together.
Yeah, we can do this. Like, this is
Mm.
trying to see solutions where a lot of people will only see problems. Such a gift to be a
Mm.
solution seeker. I want to dive into that a little bit more with some of your observations of eco villages around the world. Let's start with maybe 1 or 2 of the best case eco villages that you got to experience.
Mhm. Well, Finhorn was definitely the best case because they were the most working for the long time. They had windmills, housing, and the beautiful food preparation area and Clooney and everything, and was really working so well for so long. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm going to just break in for a second for my
Mm.
US audience.
Mm.
Where is Findhorn?
Oh, it's in Scotland, northern Scotland. And I read the book about it, how they used to make huge vegetables, and it sounded like a fairy tale. But then I got a chance to work over in England as an industrial designer, working on sustainable design things. And my main motivation was like, oh, I'll go over there and work, and I can go visit Findhorn. Yeah. And we went to Oroville, and it was close. Like, it had a really big vision, and they were building it, and they had built this big Epcot globe where you go in and meditate in there. And there were also a large area, and then had little villages all around connected. And we stayed in a forest where they were doing cashew nuts, um, and so I think quite a few people had beautiful lives there, and we could see some of the struggles they were going through as well. Um, Natural conflicts of living together and sharing the water and everything were just alive and present, and they're dealing with them like they're good, conscious people,
Mm-hmm.
doing their best they can. Yeah, and there were some really nice. One other one that was really quite well developed was a small community in Australia, in Auckland, and they used to be a lemon grove, and they changed it into like 2 streets with 12 to 20 houses and a community center, and they were living there in a modern neighborhood type of way. So they were more connected to modern life than, say, Oroville or even Findhorn. So that was nice. That was a good transition place. I think they were doing quite well. Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for letting me have a few moments in those beautiful spaces. As you went through these other communities,
Mhm.
on the human side, what's the biggest breakdown? Like, is that the ability to communicate? Is that governance? What is it that creates the most friction in these types of eco villages?
Mhm. I saw it showed up as a kind of an ego thing where people felt like the founder had too much ego, but not sure how true that really was. Like, they were just trying to be a good leader. I think it's just the little things, like they're doing their best things. They're having community times together. I think we always fail a bit at a conflict resolution. We know we should do it. We know we should have good processes, and then we don't, and we sort of shy away from actually having the hard conversations that we need to have, and then we do it through symbols and resistance rather than really facing each other and being like, oh, here's the difficult thing we need to talk about, and I trust that if I bring it up with you, you won't get all mad and yell at me. I find that even in our most conscious communities, it's still like, no, let's just not deal with it. And then it's like, well, then we just kind of drift apart and sort of don't trust each other and talk about each other, but don't really get through. Because I love this concept. They say that when you're just together, all getting along, like at first you're a pseudo community, or you're almost a community, you're just a happy people sitting at a circle together. But once you go through something together, conflict, and are able to hold it and get through to the other side, then you're a real community. Like then you're actually building that trust with each other.
Wow. Yeah. But how much on our human side we don't want to dive into that hard part, the conflict resolution, and everyone being able to say I could be right and you could be right at the same time. And then what happens? And then how do we meet in the middle? Yeah. That's when organizing love and having joy comes into play, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, I think we've had such poor models on how to communicate and how to resolve conflicts. And I think we can build a culture where we normalize it, where we practice together with little mini tensions that don't matter that much. We practice that, get that language together, and we practice it before it's needed. So we're practicing how to do our nonviolent communication, which feels so awkward at first. Like, my
Right.
need is, and my request from you is, and when you do this, I feel like it. So this kind of feels robotic at first,
Mhm.
but then when you really do it, then you go, oh, now we understand and respect and trust each other. So that's worth it. Whereas I remember within my own family said, okay, let's use this conscious communication. They were just like, that's stupid. Like, well, like, don't dismiss it too soon.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's not our normal default. And is that through nurture or just the way we are as humans?
Little of both, I think,
A
yeah.
little of both.
Yeah, it's definitely we have to build that culture. I think some native tribes had pretty good systems in place, and I think we forgot a lot of those, and they're
Mm,
not so hard to get back in, but you just need the leaders to understand its value. It needs to be valued and practiced, and it takes time, and often we're just in such a rush to get things done that we forget, and then
that's
it
true.
then it hooks us around the back, and then everything takes longer because it falls apart because we didn't learn how to trust each other.
Mm. You did a TED talk, and the thing that I really thought about for a long time after I listened to it the first time was that so often when we try to fuel change through outrage or fear or guilt or just logistics, like we look at a paper, this is what goes wrong, so let's do it this way. So,
Mm,
but
mm,
all of that feels very sort of sterile. Or on the other side, the outrage and guilt part, that doesn't feel good either. Your
mhm.
suggestion is that we reconnect and do this with joy as our main strategy. Um, so can joy be a serious strategy for systems change?
Yeah, I think it's the root. It's the only thing that's gonna work. I think only love can save us now. I remember I was teaching a course with some teenagers about sustainability, and I said, "Well, we'll put up your hands." And I said, if I push on your hands, what do you naturally do? He's like, well, I naturally push back. And if I'm telling you, if I'm forcing someone to try and change, I'm pushing on them, and or I'm shaming them, or I'm telling them they're wrong. And so
Mhm.
your natural human response is pushback. But what if but what if I dance with you? Like, then what's your response? And they're like, well, then we're dancing together, and then we're falling in love, and we're trusting each other. And then what if I dance you in a different direction? And then you come with me. And
Wow.
so energetically, I think that's how people work. And there's this beautiful quote that always comes back to me, that the human soul is like a frightened animal. It's like a wild animal. And so you don't approach it, like run at it, and you sort of you coax it in, you build trust with it, and you feed it. And the soul needs to be deeply seen and to be heard and to be loved for who you are and what you are. And so when you give people the opposite, when you give them shame, they're never going to listen to you. That you are now the enemy as soon as you shame them, and they're going to fight you all the way. And that's just such a big waste of energy, really. And yeah, and so whenever I'm doing my spiritual work, the message is always to, like, open, 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 like open your heart, help other people open their hearts and open your eyes. I think it's the only pattern that will really work to get us to build the culture that we really want.
Mhm. How are you starting to build that culture within Love Organized?
Mhm. Yeah, so we're building for the way we do our governance has it built in. So we're deep listening within our governance. So we think through what we want to do, and then we listen to each other's feelings, and then we also listen to the spirit of the project. So we meditate for a few minutes and say, "Here's our proposal, and is there any feelings or insights that come from meditating for with the spirit of the of Love Organized before we make this decision?" And then sometimes we get some really clear feedback, like, no, it should be 6 hold-ons, not 4, and then we go, oh, okay, let's take that into consideration, or like, no, actually, we're not ready yet to make this decision. Just wait until next week when we have some more information or someone else is present,
Mhm.
and really listening to that and starting the meeting with that listening as well. And there's something about that really relaxes the space in each individual. And then each person feels like something like, oh, yeah, I feel like I really need to come up in my power today. And then we can share that with each other. Or Emma can say something to me like, Kara, do you really mean it? I'm feeling doubt in what you're saying. What are you afraid of here? And then I go, oh, yeah, I'm afraid to really ask you guys to do more because, and they say, no, like, tell us what to do. We want to do more. And so then we find this through this sort of gentleness and safety for real feedback, then we can actually get somewhere together. And that's how they're empowered. And so, like, one day the meditation just wouldn't stop. Like, we just didn't want to stop and talk and do the meeting. So we just stayed in meditation. And then we ended up doing a ceremony for one of the members to really empower her. And we want her to be the leader of this whole on. And she felt like really empowered by the group through this process. So we didn't like rush through and tell her what to do, and make plans, but we let the energy of life flow in through us and into us and fill us up. And that's actually faster and more sustainable in the end, I think, when we're really activating people.
Wow. What a great model. Yeah, I'm just thinking yesterday I was having a conversation with someone and we were talking about how and this is like in an entrepreneurial group where we're
Mhm.
so prone to think up here. Everything is, a task, a list, a thing. And we're thinking that way. And we forget that we've been created to think with our body, to think with you can call them the guts, the soul, the center of us. And that if we can drop out of our head into that and let it lead the way instead of being just so to-do list oriented. And then like just having what you just said, I'm like, wow, okay. So because this podcast is really thinking about belonging, you led me to this vision, like instead of us coming around a table to figure out solutions to a problem, how would we do it if we really believed we belonged to each other? Like we would listen to each other. We would not just everyone gets to, talk for 30 seconds, but really listening to their body, like listening to all the energy they're bringing into the space. It sounds like in that day, that one person on your team needed something different than was maybe on the agenda. And you just created so much belonging in that space that you opened up to meet their needs. That's what I'm hearing. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how does belonging play with joy?
Yeah. It's a good question. Haven't thought of it that way before. I feel when I'm learning and orienting towards joy, I feel like it starts with gratitude and that listening to like life and energy and spirit, and then and then joy has this like reciprocal kind of waterfall element to it. And um and I think when I'm in that space, i'm not I'm not worried about belonging as much. Like I'm feeling like I belong with the universe and God, and like you have that oneness experience, and so you feel deeply. So I feel deeply like home in my body and on earth, and I feel like that's the direction that I want to guide people towards in life, that humanity feels home again on earth, that we really belong here, because I really hear that mythology happening a lot about oh, which planet do I come from, and I'm not from here, and I don't belong because the world's so crazy, and um but I really want us to feel like we're of the mud here. We've come up through the seawater, and we really belong here, and it's our job to steward the ecology and to live here, and live here as if we belong. And when we do that, the result is joy, I think. Like when we're not, in modern society makes us separates us and makes us not belong anymore to the earth and who we really are, and that's when we're depressed and sad and heart closed. And I think when we're in our natural truth and really home, then that's when the joy can grow. Yeah.
Mhm. That's beautiful. How do you, or have you, this can be like an example from your personal life, or this can be in related to the organizations that you serve. How do you create belonging for someone else? What would be some things that you can help teach us, or ways that you've created belonging that then can lead to joy?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I struggled with belonging myself, like in the high school kind of context, and when I see somebody being bullied and excluded, I would always feel like, "Hey, that's not right. We should all belong. We should all be included, and we should be kind all to each other." So when I always love to post a circle, and so that everyone has the space to share. And when I do the ceremonies, it's a type of ceremony where we're all in it together, and so it's not that I'm leading the ceremony and you're receiving the ceremony, it's that we're in a shared space, each sharing a piece of it and coming in when our time is right to
Mm.
bring our own power and healing into the space. And so people would say like, "Oh, no one's ever invited my healing power into the ceremony before." And I think that yeah, and I think it's that empowerment, that brings that belonging. Is what I'm trying to create, because the my goal is to work with distributed power, so that if each person's empowered to do their piece, then we can get a lot more done, and that's how it needs to happen.
Yes, let's stay there for a second, because that's rich stuff. If so, like, bringing all the gifts to the table. Like, there's not
Mhm,
one person I need to extract little things from each of you to get this thing done, but
mhm,
instead, what do we all bring, and how now does that work? And how does the leader or the vision holder, how do we go about creating those spaces and seeing? I think sometimes people come and they don't know their gifts. So how can we, I'm going to just say, we're village builders,
yeah,
whether in the
yeah.
human context of that, or if in the like actual housing, but as village builders, how can we create those tables, metaphorically, where people can bring their gifts and we can somehow figure out how do all those pieces work together to solve this human puzzle?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm a strategic facilitator, so I've learned all the art of hosting practices, so that one of them is circle, and but then one of them is open space, and another is world cafe. So just how to host a whole session where we have bring the collective intelligence out from the group, and that's really important for me. So every time I'm at a conference that isn't open space, I feel like everyone's not sharing, and we're not getting the juice out of the emergence that we could out of this collective. um, and so yeah, so that's a really important element to me. When the strategy really comes out of the group, then it's alive. Then it wants to be activated. It's not just one person's thought that we're trying to get buy-in, and then it doesn't really happen. And so we can make that collective impact framework happens. I got funding from the Ontario government foundation, the Trillium Foundation, and we invited in the city and the business people and the nonprofits, and we met together regularly, and I had them on stage. I said, yeah, will you come and you speak and we share what you've done, and then everyone's honored by that and they want to come and share, and then we have collective dialogue together about, okay, what are all the pieces, and what's the, different people brought different like key statistics about, buildings are half the CO2 emissions in Ottawa. So, okay, well, maybe we focus there more as a collective. And then so through each of all the pieces that everyone brought to the whole, we could see together. That's one of the principles of collective intelligence, is help the system all see itself together. And so that's by bringing those different types of stakeholders together, and each person has a different perspective, and then we all get it together and we all go, aha. And that's my business, is aha, graphic facilitation. And then I draw a big picture of it and say, here's what we're creating. And that's another way to ground it and have it come into form. And then people can see it and see that what they said made it up onto this big poster that I'm drawing about it. And so we've created a learning program around some of these skills through our Cohere Plus program. Maybe I can give a link to that in the comments below.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. We'll include that in the show notes for sure. Talk to us just a little bit more about open spaces.
Yeah. Open space. The first one I did was at Fintorn, and they said it's an unconference. So instead of getting 5 experts to come up on stage and talk for half an hour, which is very valuable and interesting, that another day of the conference would be the unconference. And they'd say, okay, what important questions are you all holding? What important conversations do you all want to have? And then people take a piece of paper and say, I want to host a conversation on this. And then they put it up on the board. And then you say, okay, there's these 5 rooms, there'll be these 5 conversations. And then in the next time slot, there'll be these 5 conversations. And so the agenda is generated by the participants in the moment as part of the process. And then say, off you go have your conversations, and come back to us with a 3-point summary that we're going to put all together, or come back with a song that you've made up about it. Or, it's the better way. The more creative you are with the harvesting, I find the better results you get. The harvesting is what we call like getting all the info coming out of all the discussions, and that's a way of empowering everybody again, and more. And there's more belonging because there's more voices that are being heard in the room, and people feel, because that's the deep soul needs. It's like, I want to be heard. I want to say my piece and feel the energy building with the other people in the room.
Yeah, there is something to be said about when somebody hears you or when you're seen, how much that does connect you to those around you. Like that definitely brings in belonging. Which brings me back to joy. Talking about joy in relation to belonging, I'm just sort of uncovering this here live as we're chatting, Kara, and I appreciate you letting us have space for this. I feel like joy could be a outcome of creating true belonging, but I'm wondering if someone is coming with joy, if joy can attract belonging.
Seems to follow, yeah.
Right?
um yeah, I mean, that's what I'm playing with, joy as an attractor, joy at the center of what we're creating. I participated in the hollow movement, and they had the sort of the 4 sectors, and they had in the middle impact, and I was graphic recording and drawing the picture, and just through what I was hearing and feeling through the event, it was lots of beautiful musicians, beautiful dance parties, beautiful like play, like pretend we're butterflies, pretend we're chrysalises turning into butterflies, like all these fun activities we do together in the conference. When I was drawing it up, I put joy in the middle, joy. And then they went, yes, it's joy in the middle. And then they started writing about that and convening about that and showing and social media about that. It's like, come be part of this joy. We throw this better party that people want to come to build this new world together. Because so much of the climate narrative is just about despair and shame and anger and grief and rage. And those are all really important and true, but like deeply unattractive as well.
Well, those don't seem to
Yeah.
build. Those seem
Mhm.
to dismantle or dissolve or destroy, but those
Mhm.
things don't seem to build, where joy feels a lot more possible as far as like building a better future. How could you build a better future, or why would you want to without joy? So let's
Mhm,
define for our listeners. I would love to hear your personal definition, not a dictionary definition,
mhm,
on joy. Different than happiness, different than love, different than contentment.
mhm,
Where does joy come from? How do you make space in your life for joy, or how do you create joy?
mhm. Yeah, I think joy's, for me, it's an energy when being like super present and super, um, for me, it's like picking a hot strawberry out of the sun in my back garden and eating it really slowly, and then it explodes through your brain, and you just and like when you're really intentionally um tasting, letting that experience fill you up. It's like,
Now
oh.
I want a strawberry. Well,
Yeah, that's
there's
that's
something
joy
about
to me.
being
That
really,
yeah,
really present, like just being like even the smallest thing that it just isn't negative, but just could be even neutral, just being really present with it feels like that could help create some joy.
yeah, like life, like when I'm in my garden like that, I think we need so little to experience so much joy. And we work so hard and we destroy so much to try and get a little bit of happiness and status and then feel terrible at the end when we could just slow down, teach each other to just tune into our senses and just feel so much joy and need to consume so much less.
Mm. Wow. Have you sit with that for a second. That's amazing. Um, let's move ahead. Actually, we're going to have to skip our whole Monopoly section. So, for my
That's fine.
listeners, Kara has a TEDx talk that I will link below. Check this out. She tells a Monopoly story that is brilliant. And I had a similar Monopoly story when I was young. And it was that moment, I think, of not knowing that this is part of my life path to create more belonging, to build villages. I would play Monopoly. I'm going to tell you the short story and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
And my sister and I, under the table, kept feeding other people money because my brother was winning, and it was in a painful way, and he was loving it. He was loving that he had, he was loving it all. And I was so torn. Like it was, I think, the first thing I can remember feeling in my body that there shouldn't be such a disconnect of winners and losers. And it's so our society here, and it was the world I grew up in. And that just never felt right. Monopoly certainly sets us up to think that that's the only way it can be. And we know that there's other and better ways. And I love being in the world with you, Kara, where we can figure out how to create belonging and systems that include everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, we
So
gotta flip the board and play a different game on the other side that's cooperative and
absolutely.
caring for everybody.
Yep, absolutely. Cooperative and caring. I love that. So for the audience, please go in, listen to her TED Talk because it's so enjoyable. But let's move on a little bit. I want to hear more about your Love Organized framework. I know you have a 5-step framework, so go through that with us a little bit of how you set out to build the new while we're still living here with the old.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's that well-loved quote by Buckminster Fuller that, to change the system, you don't force people to change, you just build a new system that's just so much better that it makes the other one obsolete. So that's the focus of this project, is to say, "Okay, there are a bunch of us who are ready. There are a bunch of us who are yearning for life to be so different and to be able to make a living with giving our gifts, giving our regeneration, being kind and loving and not feeling like we have to give all that up to have a house and a mortgage and a retirement. And people are experimenting in so many ways. And um, what I can see is if we can coordinate all those people just at that next level, just above the eco villages in the regional level, so that we can be living in the cities and having a regenerative currency that connects us all up across the eco-villages and across, so that the farmer and the dressmaker and the forest school person and the entertainment and the healer, that we can all work together to support each other better, so we can all thrive at that next level, make the business model work, and to get a little bit savvy together in cooperatives of owning assets together as well, so that we can leverage those assets to create more jobs in the regenerative economy. So I imagine a 5-step big strategy that can create that bigger transformation that we want. So the first step is prototyping that system. If we can focus in one city, like Toronto's emerging as a place where we're going to focus and say, okay, we have the Center for CSI, the Center for Social Innovation in Toronto. They have bought a building and they've been using it for regenerative purposes. And now they're at a point where they own the building. And so now it's an asset. And so now we can leverage that. And we can gather together all those people I just mentioned and have them know each other better and have them have a currency so that they can do more with less money, basically, if they share with each other in that bubble. And then that helps us create jobs. So we have this level of governance that needs to be done, all the things we talked about earlier, about how do you do all that conflict resolution, all this creating new infrastructure and new systems and creating a whole new economy. That's work that needs to be paid. And there's often not a lot of cash to pay for those jobs. But this currency, it's a way that we're creating our own form of cash. And so I'm going to sort of make up this currency that's going to be backed on assets so that it's a real thing and not just made up out of thin air, but that now I can get a salary for being that new kind of governance person. And then with that salary, I can get my food box, I can put my kids in forest school, and I can get some clothes and some entertainment. And so then it's creating real wealth and value for my life. It's creating a job in creating the new economy. So it's like, so let's prototype that. So that's step one. Like, can we pull all those pieces together, do the minimum viable product of that? Can it really work? What are the limitations and how many people do you need and where does it fall apart? And so we want to play some games around that and have summer camps around that and get those technology guys working together around that, which everyone's ready to do and wants to do. And so we're getting grants to try and to have the focus to get all that together. And then step 2 happens kind of the same time. We're creating these pod groups. So not everyone are those people who are going to be engaged in the technology and the sharing and the currency, but everyone wants to explore their purpose, go to the next level, have somewhere they belong, have a place to rest from the stress of the current economy and experience joy together. So we have these pod groups, this community that people can join to say, where are the people who are like making the world a better place? Here, come to loveorganized.com and meet Emma and join a pod. And maybe there'll be a pod in your area, or maybe there'll be a pod on the topic that you like to talk about eco-villages or something like that. And then that's a regular space that becomes your home, your church, your support group, and helps you think through, how am I going to weave myself into the new economy? And maybe some jobs become available, and then maybe you get one of those jobs that we're creating. And so then I can see youth then start to say, well, instead of going to university and taking that whole modern society track, maybe I'm going to go this other way, and I'm just going to do the learning and earning in the regenerative economy instead, and use my energy. That brings me more joy in the end. So step 1 is the prototyping. Step 2 are the pods, so that everyone around the world has somewhere to land. And we want the people in the pods to feel like they're getting enough value that they feel good about paying a monthly fee for that, just like you do in your church and your tithing. If you want a new world and taxes that create our cities and streets, we need people to pay in and really commit to building this new world together. And then that helps us also to do the governance and pay the facilitators to make the spaces really good and really well held. And then the third step is that we have to fund the system. So we have to get those assets into place. So we need some community bonds. So we get normal people say, okay, give in $5,000 to this. If a bunch of us do that, we can buy a building together, and then we can rent out that building and have an income. We'll pay you back real slowly with a low return, but we'll get you the goal is to get you your money back and maybe a little more. But then we'll be able to use that asset to make more, to do that, to leverage it again for more jobs and more support for the regenerative farmers and everybody and governors. And so that's a lot of hard work, but it's a step that we got to do. And then that way the regenerative economy, that our new bubble, will grow and grow over time. And then once we have enough capacity, we can start step 4, which is bridging people over. So saying, come on, now there's jobs for you. Now your mainstream people go, I'm so tired. I just lost my job. There's no jobs because of AI. They say, come on over, come, we've got something here for you. You can start building it with us. And then the last step is that the more that can build up, then it can start to become the actual mainstream system where people say, I don't want my kids to go to normal school. I love what's happening in the forest school because they're all talking about that. And those kids are just shining. Those kids are just thriving that are coming out of the forest school. How come our kids are like on their screens, and those kids are like this, And then people start to say, these principles that are being so successful in our town, I want someone to run with those principles and to actually get that into the real institutions. And then we start to see some bigger changes coming.
And now you have a whole new reality that people can step into as their old reality is falling apart.
Yeah, giving a real choice. That's the path of joy.
Kara, the last hour sitting here with you, being present with you and listening to your experiences and your brilliance and your heart, that has truly brought me joy. Is there any question I haven't asked you that you wish I would?
The only thing would be to just ring my bell to hold a sacred space together.
Oh, let's hold a sacred space together.
I just want to feel the heart and energy of every person listening right now, of you and me and all your podcasts and all your podcasts guests, and the field that you're building around the world to care for children who don't belong anywhere, to give them a place where they're loved, where they have a chance. I just want to ring the bell and just feel the space together in silence. I want nothing more than for us all to feel deeply loved.
Thank you. Thank you to Kara Stonehouse for being such a lovely guest today and bringing us a little closer to coming back to ourselves. And thank you, listeners, for being here, being a part of a world that's kinder and a world that brings belonging. May we always build belonging together. Also, thank you to our patron, Dee Laughlin, for supporting this podcast and making it possible for these conversations. Until next time, go out there and create belonging for someone else.